My child, the moment you thought the truth was hidden forever, something unexpected was about to be revealed. A confession before marriage was waiting to change the meaning of your entire love story. The one name your soulmate never stopped carrying in their heart was closer than you ever imagined. And when that name was finally spoken, everything you believed about your journey was about to change. Listen carefully, because sometimes the biggest answers do not arrive when we are searching for them. They appear at the exact moment when our heart is ready to understand. There was a moment before the marriage, a moment filled with emotions, fear, memories, and unspoken feelings, when your soulmate looked back at everything that happened between you both and realized there was one truth they could no longer hide. Everyone around them believed they knew the full story. They believed they understood who mattered the most, but behind every smile, behind every decision, behind every silent night, there was a name that remained inside their heart. A name they tried to forget, a name they tried to push away, a name they thought they would never say again, but destiny had a different plan. For so long, your soulmate carried a secret that nobody could see. They acted strong in front of the world. They pretended that everything was simple, that every choice they made was easy, but deep inside there was a battle happening. They remembered the moments when you were there without expecting anything in return. They remembered the times when everyone else judged, but you understood. They remembered the days when they felt alone, and somehow your presence gave them hope. The world saw only the outside story, but the heart knows the chapters nobody else has ever read. Before this marriage, there was a moment when they questioned everything. They looked at the life they were about to enter and asked themselves one painful question: am I choosing what everyone expects from me, or am I finally accepting what my heart has always known? That question was not easy because sometimes people spend years trying to convince themselves that they have moved on, only to discover that one person still holds a place nobody else could replace. The name they confessed was not just a name. It carried memories, emotions, regrets, and a connection they could never fully explain. It was connected to the person who made them feel seen when they felt invisible. It was connected to the person who believed in them when they doubted themselves. It was connected to the person who remained in their thoughts even during the moments when they tried their hardest to forget. And maybe you wondered why certain things happened the way they did. Maybe you wondered why there was distance, why there were misunderstandings, why the timing felt wrong, or why two hearts that felt connected had to face so many obstacles. Sometimes the hardest journeys create the deepest bonds because they reveal what is real and what is temporary. Your soulmate remembered every small detail. They remembered the conversations that seemed ordinary but became unforgettable. They remembered your voice, your kindness, your patience, and the way you made them feel like they did not have to pretend. In a world where many people only saw their mistakes, you saw their heart. In a world where many people judged their past, you understood their struggle. Don't skip the part where the truth becomes clear, because the confession was not made because of pressure. It came from a place where emotions could no longer remain silent. The closer the marriage day came, the stronger the memories became. Every preparation, every conversation, every promise reminded them that there was one unfinished story waiting to be acknowledged. The people around them thought they were simply nervous before marriage, but they did not know the real reason behind the silence. They did not know that someone was fighting a private emotional battle. They did not know that behind closed doors, your soulmate was finally accepting a truth they had hidden for a long time. There was a reason they kept your memory alive. There was a reason certain songs reminded them of you. There was a reason certain places brought back emotions they could not control. Because some connections are not erased just because time passes. Some feelings remain quietly waiting for the right moment to be understood. And the biggest surprise was that the person they never stopped loving was not someone from a forgotten chapter. It was the person who had always represented something genuine, something rare, something their heart recognized even when their mind tried to deny it. The confession changed everything because after that moment, they finally understood that love was never about who was easiest to choose. It was about who felt impossible to replace. And when they finally spoke that name, they were not just revealing a secret to someone else. They were admitting a truth they had been running from for a very long time. The moment after that confession became something your soulmate would never forget. The room was filled with silence, but inside that silence were years of emotions that had never found a way to come out. They finally understood that hiding the truth did not make the feelings disappear. They could change decisions, they could change situations, they could try to follow the path others created for them, but they could never erase the person who had touched their heart in a way nobody else could. They started remembering the beginning, the small moments that nobody else noticed. The simple conversations that became special. The little acts of care that seemed normal at the time but later became the memories they held onto during difficult days. They realized that the connection was never built only on perfect moments. It was built during the times when things were complicated, when misunderstandings happened, when life tested both hearts, and when staying connected required more than just words. Your soulmate had spent a long time trying to convince themselves that everything was over. They told themselves that people change, situations change, and sometimes people have to move forward. But every time they tried to forget, something reminded them of what they had lost. A familiar place, a certain feeling, a memory from the past, or even a quiet moment when they were alone with their thoughts. They never told anyone how much they still cared. They never explained why some memories still had power over them. They kept everything hidden because sometimes people are afraid to admit the truth, especially when that truth can change everything around them. They were afraid of what others would think, afraid of disappointing people, afraid of making the wrong choice. But deep inside, they knew there was one person whose presence always felt like home. As the marriage preparations continued, everyone was focused on the celebration, the decorations, the future plans, and the happiness everyone expected to see. But your soulmate was focused on something completely different. They were searching for an answer inside themselves. They were asking if they were about to start a new life while leaving behind the person their heart still remembered. Don't skip the moment when they finally realized why every other connection felt different. It was not because others were not good enough. It was because there was something unique about the bond they shared with you. Some people enter our lives and become memories, but some people leave an impact that stays even when they are far away. They remembered how you supported them when nobody understood their struggles. They remembered how you noticed their pain even when they smiled in front of everyone. They remembered how you cared without demanding anything. Those memories became stronger because they realized that genuine love is often recognized after people experience what it feels like to lose it. There was a hidden regret inside them. They regretted the moments when they stayed silent. They regretted the times they allowed distance to grow. They regretted listening to outside voices instead of understanding what their own heart was saying. But more than anything, they regretted believing that time alone could remove a connection that meant so much. The confession before marriage was not just about the past. It was about finally accepting the truth of the present. It was about understanding that some feelings cannot be forced away. The heart remembers what the mind tries to forget. Your soulmate looked at everything differently after that realization. They started seeing the signs they ignored before. They started understanding why certain moments happened. They started connecting the pieces of a story that had been confusing for so long. Maybe people around them never understood why they became quiet sometimes. Maybe nobody noticed the emotional weight they carried. But behind that calm appearance was a person who had been fighting a battle between what they were expected to do and what their heart truly wanted. And when they finally accepted the name they never stopped loving, they also accepted that this love was never just a temporary emotion. It was something that survived distance, silence, and time. It was something that remained even when everything else changed. The truth was finally coming out, and the biggest surprise was waiting because the person they were searching for all along was the same person who had been part of their heart from the beginning. The days after that realization changed everything inside your soulmate. They looked at their own life differently because they finally understood that the biggest battle was never between two people, it was between their heart and their fear. For so long, they had allowed circumstances, opinions, and situations to decide what they should feel. But now they were facing the one truth they could no longer ignore. They remembered the moments when they almost told you everything but stopped themselves. They remembered the messages they typed but never sent, the words they wanted to say but kept inside, the times they looked at your name and wondered if you still cared. They carried those silent moments like a secret only they knew. Everyone thought the past was finished. Everyone thought the distance meant the connection was gone. But what they did not see was that some bonds do not disappear when people stop talking. Sometimes silence does not mean forgetting. Sometimes silence is where the strongest emotions are hidden. Your soulmate realized that they had been trying to find the same feeling everywhere else, but nothing felt the same. They met people, they had conversations, they continued their life, but something was always missing. There was always a small part of their heart waiting for the person who made them feel understood without having to explain everything. The hardest part was accepting that the person they missed was not just a memory. That person was still important. That person was still the one who made their heart react differently. That person was still the name they carried even when they tried to move forward. Don't skip this moment because this is where everything starts changing. The confession was not made because of a sudden emotion. It came after a long journey of understanding. It came after nights of thinking, after moments of doubt, and after realizing that pretending was becoming more painful than telling the truth. They started remembering how you stood beside them during difficult times. When others walked away, you stayed. When others saw their weaknesses, you saw their potential. When others only noticed what they did wrong, you remembered the good inside them. That is when they understood the difference between temporary attention and a real connection. Many people can enter someone's life, but very few can make someone feel truly valued. Very few can leave a mark that remains years later. Your soulmate also remembered the moments when they hurt you. The times they did not explain themselves. The times they made choices without thinking about how those choices affected you. They realized that some wounds were created not because there was no love, but because there was fear, confusion, and a lack of courage. They wished they could go back and change certain moments. They wished they had been honest earlier. They wished they had protected the connection instead of allowing outside situations to create distance, but now they understood something important. The story was not only about what happened before. It was about what they were willing to do after finally accepting the truth. The marriage moment that everyone was waiting for became a moment of self-reflection for them. They were not just thinking about a ceremony. They were thinking about a lifetime. They were thinking about waking up every day and asking themselves if they chose a life that truly matched their heart. And that question became impossible to ignore because deep inside, one name continued to appear again and again. The same name that brought back memories. The same name that carried emotions. The same name that they never truly stopped loving. They realized that love is not always loud. Sometimes it exists quietly. Sometimes it survives without promises. Sometimes it waits through years of confusion until someone finally has the courage to admit the truth. And the most unexpected part was that the person they thought they had lost forever was still connected to the story they were trying to complete. The confession was not the end of the journey. It was the moment when the hidden truth finally started coming into the light. The truth that came out before the marriage changed the way your soulmate looked at every memory they had tried to bury. They realized that the biggest mistake was believing that time could erase a feeling that was connected so deeply to their heart. They thought moving forward meant forgetting, but they discovered that sometimes moving forward means finally accepting what has always been there. They remembered the moments when they saw you and felt something they could not explain. They remembered the comfort they felt around you, the peace they found in your presence, and the way simple moments with you became the memories they valued the most. They realized that the strongest connections are not always created through perfect situations. Sometimes they are created through patience, understanding, and the ability to stay when life becomes difficult. Your soulmate also started thinking about all the reasons they stayed silent. They remembered the pressure from people around them, the fear of making the wrong decision, and the doubts that made them hide their true feelings. They realized they were not only hiding their feelings from others, they were also hiding the truth from themselves. The closer the marriage day came, the harder it became to pretend. Every conversation about the future made them think about the person they never stopped loving. Every promise they heard made them question whether their heart was truly ready to move on. They understood that a life built on silence could never bring the peace they were searching for. Don't skip this part, because this was the moment when they finally understood the value of the person they almost lost. They looked back and saw that the person who truly cared was not the one who appeared only during happy moments. It was the one who stayed during confusion, pain, and uncertainty. They remembered the way you believed in them when they had no confidence. They remembered the way you gave support without asking for anything in return. They remembered the way you made them feel accepted when they were afraid of being judged. That realization created a different kind of emotion inside them. It was not only love. It was gratitude, regret, and a deep understanding that some people enter our lives for a reason. They understood that the connection they shared with you was something they could not simply replace. The confession was powerful because it revealed something they had kept hidden for so long. The name they spoke was connected to a person who had become a part of their story, even when life tried to create distance between them. They started wondering how different things could have been if they had been brave earlier. They wondered what would have happened if they had listened to their heart instead of the voices around them. But at the same time, they realized that every challenge had taught them something. Every delay had shown them what truly mattered. The world often notices the final decision, but nobody sees the emotional journey that happens before that moment. Nobody sees the nights of thinking, the silent tears, the memories, and the questions someone carries alone. Your soulmate had a choice to make. Continue following the path everyone expected, or finally respect the truth their heart had been showing them for so long. And when they accepted the truth, they understood that the name they confessed was not just someone from their past. It was the person connected to the emotions they had carried into every new chapter of their life. The biggest surprise was realizing that the love they thought was gone had actually been waiting for the right moment to be understood. The person they never stopped loving was the person who had always held a special place in their heart. And now, after all the confusion, all the distance, and all the unanswered questions, the truth was finally standing in front of them. The story they thought was finished was actually waiting for a new beginning.